Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady. And today we have a two-part story, so sit comfortably and let's get started. What a mess. Gather round, guys and dolls, as I spin the beginnings of a lovely tale of karma, an angry anti-hero, and not just one, nor two, but three, yes, three messes. All featuring the same C-Wordosaurus Rex. Small world, right? Originally, I was just going to tell my SO about this sweet karmic justice, but then I realized I'd have to re-explain the drama to explain why I cared so much, so I figured I'd just post it on here and he'd probably lurk and find it later. Hi, babe. It's a long read, so I apologize. I just remember it strongly, and sometimes I get a little overzealous with details. Mess number one begins with our anti-heroine, moi, walking around the grocery store 2 weeks ago. As I've been mistaken for an employee at two separate stores before, I am now increasingly wary of strangers approaching me and have started trying to turn off my customer service mindset outside of work. I wander into the frozen foods aisle because ice cream, and practically shove myself into the freezer to find something specific. That's where the C-Wordosaurus finds me. At first, it started with humming. Then a couple of ahems peppered here and there. Weird, but everyone shops different. Then we launched into foot tapping. I thought maybe she was listening to music. Had to be a good song to tap your feet, right? Oh, my poor innocence. Excuse me? Ooh, this crap was forceful. I looked up, and she was glaring down at me. I took out one earbud to be polite, obviously not holding true to my mantra of do not engage. Yes? I've been effing standing here for 15 minutes. Is this how you treat customers? Can I get some GD help? I opened my mouth to respond, but didn't get a chance. She huffed and scrunched her face. Ugh, forget it. Clearly useless. Where's unmemorable food item? Previous time this happened, I froze. So far past that stage now. I tried keeping it short and sweet, but I felt my temper rising. Don't know. Don't work here. I put my earbud back in. I did not even want the ice cream anymore. F it. I didn't process the actual feeling, but I watched my headphones hit the floor, and I was shook. While I was still processing, she was letting me have it. Excuse me, are you actually lying to a customer? I don't care if you're on your break. I'm asking you for help. I genuinely thought for a brief moment, maybe I'm being punked. She was ridiculous. This had to be a joke, but then seeing my headphones on the floor, I got slightly angry. I still hadn't picked them up. That was a mistake. Listen, I just effing told you I don't work here. I'm not on break. I'm not off. I do not work here. She didn't process anything I'd said. It was like my words were just background music, something to slide along the beat of her continuing rant. Even if you're on break, customers come first. You definitely shouldn't be listening to music while you're working. You're really going to risk getting in big trouble for a little music. I was about to reply, maybe add a little sass, and let her know that nothing had actually been playing. I just never took them out of my ear. Before I had the chance, my mistake came back to haunt me. She looked down at my headphones, still laying on the floor between us. With a quick look at me, she stomped as hard as crap on them. I heard a crack as the right side was now completely disconnected, little speaker just rolling on the floor. I couldn't find the words at first. Did you just effing break my headphones? She gave me a nasty smirk. You're damn right. Let's see you ignore someone else now. I can't even really think of accurate things to describe my anger. You're going to give me money for those? Right now. Right effing now. You had no right. There was so much more I could have said, but in my fury, not many other words came to my mind. She got even angrier. You should have done your effing job. I was the wrong one to test today, B-word. In an attempt to not act out my thoughts, I imagined testing my hand on the side of her face. Then she gave me a gem. Actually, you know what? I'm getting your manager, and he and I are going to have a nice long chat about his previous employee's work ethic. She started walking away as she pulled out her phone. Better start looking for a new job. Nah, B-word, I want money for these headphones. I stomped after her as she loudly tried to hold a conversation. I'm in your store. This little bee refused to help me. You need to fire her. She eventually turned around and saw me following her and proceeded to freak the F out, screaming that I was stalking her and needed to hurry. Thankfully, the manager found us with what I can only assume is echolocation and tried to help. He saw her first and started attempting to calm her. I stepped closer and he looked at me and told me he'd be right with me. He just needed to take care of this family emergency and it'd only take a moment. Unfortunately for both of us, she was still screaming and drawing attention. "This is her, the girl who wouldn't help me." He gave me a glance and returned her expectant look with confusion. Her voice started rising and I swear it could have been broken glass. "This girl, your employee. I waited for 30 minutes for her to acknowledge me. She was too busy listening to music to do her job." She doesn't work here. I've never seen her before in my life." His attention then came back to me. "Did you tell her you worked here?" I told her multiple times I didn't work here. She effing snatched my headphones, then broke them. "I want compensation for my damaged property or I'm calling the cops." I doubted they would come for some petty grocery store squabble, but it was the only scary repercussion I could think of. Before she could open her mouth, he dug out his wallet and handed me $30. "Is that enough? I'm so sorry. Please, anything you were going to get, half off. Please don't call the police." I took the money and thanked him, but I absolutely wasn't done with C-Wordosaurus. I needed the last word. "Everyone in the effing store is staring at you. You're a effing nut job, lady." I had so much more that I wanted to say. I wanted to point out in depth every single thing that screamed that I was an employee. From my sweatpants to my hair, I wanted to go through each and every clue that could have been. But after all that, I was mentally exhausted. I decided to go home. She was still raging and spouting her own crap-talking barrage, but I was so ready to go I ignored it and walked out of the store. Got home, explained my crappy afternoon to my SO, and thought up lots of snappy comebacks and alternate actions in the shower that night. Didn't think I'd ever have a reason to use them. Until I ran into her again 3 days later. Let's move on to the second act. What a Mess, Act 2. Act 2 of the mess that was C-Wordosaurus Rex. This time in surround sound and in a movie theater. This happened 3 or 4 days after our first tango in the frozen food aisle, and trust me, it was just as wild as the first encounter. To preface our tale, through some movie theater connections, a close friend got herself, my SO, and another friend tickets to a matinee. She'd previously worked at the theater, and since she parted on good terms, the managers were okay with her sneaking some food and drinks for us. Movie theater friend will be Jay for story purposes. My other friend is Gina. Important to note, Gina and Jay look absolutely nothing alike. Now the encounter. The movie had just ended. We were waiting around while Jay talked to one of her old coworkers and Gina went to the bathroom. Eventually, Jay and my SO decided they were hungry and left to find food. I stayed behind to wait for Gina. Things were looking good. The day was shaping out to be a great one. Sun was bright. Weather was good for once. Gina walked out of the bathroom and headed towards me. She had almost reached me when I heard it. "Hey, you, over there!" I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to look. I took a glance from the corner of my eye, and there she was, C-Wordosaurus. How could I forget a face that infuriating? And she walked right past me to speak to Gina. "You, Theater 6 looks terrible. Someone spilled popcorn all over my seats and dropped their soda on the floor. You need to come clean it up before the movie starts." Gina gave me a furrowed brow. "Are you talking to me? I don't work here." C-Wordosaurus did not like being challenged. She grit her teeth, planted her feet, and squared her shoulders. She was ready. This time she was gonna win. "Excuse me, I saw you talking with other theater people. I just want you to clean it up before the movie starts." Gina slowly inched towards me, taking small steps around C-Wordosaurus Rex to reach me. "I'm sorry, you might have mistaken me for my friend, but I really don't work here." C-Wordosaurus huffed and groaned and sighed. "Seriously? It's just a quick cleanup. You'll be back on your break and gossiping in 10 minutes. Just clean it before I have to sit back down." She stamped her foot, and I decided to have my say. When else would I ever see her again to get my words out? I didn't even look at her. I just started talking. "You're either blind or dumb. She doesn't work here. Go talk to them." I point towards the concession stand where a small group of employees were watching the exchange with bated breath and a couple of bags of popcorn. She gave me a quick glance, rolled her eyes, and said, "I'm not talking to you. Just tell your friend I need my aisle cleaned before I sit down for this." I'd been thinking about her since our first meeting. I had so many comebacks make their way to me in the shower, but only one stood out at the moment. I went with it. Do you need a doctor? They don't fix stupid, but they make you pretty enough that it'll distract people when you speak. C-Word was quickly turning red. Her forehead had started to glow an ugly shade of pink. Excuse you? She looked at Gina again, taking a full step forward and prompting us both to give each other a glance. Where is your manager? Bring him here right now. I couldn't believe she only had those ears for decoration. Didn't listen to a single effing thing. Do it yourself. Come on. I grabbed Gina and started to push her in front of me. We almost made it when I felt a forceful clawed hand on my arm. C-Word was still screaming, I said get the manager right now! I decided to match her screams. Yo! Get the F off me! What's wrong with you? I told Gina to get the manager as well. She ran to the counter and the audience scattered, save for 2 or 3 employees who wanted to know what was happening. Good old C-Word still hadn't released me from her grip. I wrenched my arm out of her grasp and realized that C-Wordosaurus had not been graced with balance. She stumbled backwards, twice, then fell directly on her butt into a Wreck-It Ralph promotional cutout. The manager arrived just in time to watch her flail and plop onto the floor. The woman started to ask questions. Was she all right? Did she require medical attention? But none of that could be answered. As soon as C-Wordosaurus saw the manager in the flesh, she started crying. I stared at Gina, who'd stayed near the counter with all the other employees while I listened to the crybaby under crocodile tears. All I was able to make out between sobs was, employee, pushed, in theater, lying. The manager was still trying to calm her down. She stretched out a hand to help her up, but C-Word waved it away, still choking out cries of supposed anguish. I'm sorry, what was that? The tears were beginning to subside. She pushed me, she said between whimpers, pointing at me and then whipping quickly to Gina, and she refused to help me. Your employee! The manager lady looked at Gina, then back down to the floor, a mask of confusion evident. I'm sorry, who refused to help you? Our entitled star seemed to realize she wasn't being clear and switched tactics. She gestured to me again. Her friend, that girl over there. The manager was giving glances between C-Word and Gina and still looked befuddled. She doesn't work here. And then silence. It was like a switch had been flipped. The sobbing actress on the floor was suddenly still, focusing on the manager and not looking anywhere else. She started to stutter but then stopped. She looked back up to me. My presence seemed to give her the strength to struggle to her feet. She assaulted me. She shoved me into the poster. You need to call the police. I just shook my head. You can check the camera. She grabbed me. Manager lady agreed and started motioning for us to come with her to the back of the house. Suddenly, C-Wordosaurus was no longer interested in checking the cameras. She just wanted to get back to her movie, she kept repeating, and speed limped away. Manager lady apologized and offered us some free snacks, but we assured her everything was fine, and I gave everyone the first story of my run-in with the lovely C-Wordosaurus. Laughs were had. I caught a glimpse of her leaving the theater from one of the side doors, clearly not up for walking past the front again to accuse another person of working there. And that was that. I wouldn't need to see her ever again, right? I was so sure of it, until yesterday, at my actual job. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.